Hey everyone, let's get right into today's explainer, why some tasks automate and others don't. So if you're anything like me, you probably feel, well, a little overwhelmed by the sheer volume of repetitive chores in your day, right? Sorting emails, sending out the exact same invoice reminders, approving simple requests, logging data, it literally feels like a never-ending loop. But what if we could sketch a way out of that loop? Today, we're going to look at why some tasks easily automate while others stubbornly refuse to. We'll break this down simply, step by step, kind of like we're drawing it all out on a giant whiteboard together. First things first, is automation just, magic robots taking our jobs? Let's go ahead and wipe that whiteboard clean right now, because a lot of times when people hear the word automation, they immediately picture some wild sci-fi movie, like literal physical robots sitting at our desks and doing our jobs for us. But automation isn't about robots at all. It's actually way simpler. It's really just a system for noticing a pattern and acting on it without having to start from scratch every single time. And that brings us to this brilliant quote from our source material today. Automation is repetition with memory. Seriously, think about that for a second. It's a real game changer. Instead of burning your brain power making the exact same choice 100 times, a system stores that decision once. Then, it just reuses it when the same situation pops up again. Basically, it remembers the rule so you don't have to. Now, what's really fascinating here is this concept of the hidden machine. You see, behind every automatic task that feels like magic, whether it's the spam filter on your phone catching junk or a motion sensor flipping on the lights when you walk down a hallway, there's a simple, invisible logic machine quietly working away in the background. We're not talking about the physical button or the app interface. We're talking about the underlying logic. So let's break down how this invisible machine actually works. Okay, picture this drawn out step by step. Every piece of automation flows smoothly through a 4-part decision pipeline. Step 1 is the trigger. Basically, something changes in the world. Step 2 is the rule. This is where the system decides what that change actually means. Step 3 is the response. A specific action automatically follows. And finally, step 4 is the handoff. The result is recorded or it's passed on to the next place. That exact sequence right there, that is the engine under almost every automated system we use every day. Let's X-ray this machine with some everyday analogies to make it crystal clear. Think of the trigger as a doorbell. It just notices a change. The rule? That's like a traffic light. It gives meaning to that change. The response is like your home thermostat, performing a set action based on the rule. And the handoff is just like getting a grocery receipt. It simply keeps a record or passes the work along to you. Let's zoom in a little closer on those first 2 steps because they're absolutely crucial. All right, step 1. The trigger. Think of the trigger as the starting signal. It literally just tells the system a change has happened out there in our big, messy world. Going back to that doorbell analogy for a second, the doorbell itself doesn't decide who's at the door, right? And it definitely doesn't swing the door open for you. All it does is mark a specific moment as relevant. It's just the signal that wakes the machine up and essentially yells, hey, pay attention, the work matters right now. Once the machine is awake, we hit step 2, the rule. Now, the rule is the logic that says, if this happens, then do that. Let's think about our traffic light. A red light doesn't physically stop a car by brute strength. There's no force field there. It only works because we all collectively agree on its meaning. In automation, the rule gives the trigger its actual job. It takes that messy real-world moment and classifies it into a super clear decision. So how does all this build together? Well, a lot of people tend to think automation is just hitting one big magical go button. But it's really not a single button at all. It's a domino effect. Imagine sketching out a huge package sorting center on our whiteboard. A scanner reads a label, then a rule sends it left or right, a machine pushes it down a chute, and finally a computer logs it. The intelligence isn't locked inside one giant machine doing the whole job. Instead, it's distributed across this continuous, highly coordinated chain of small checks and handoffs. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. Why do some systems flow completely smoothly while others just constantly break down? Like you can set up an automation to send a reminder if an invoice is 7 days late, and it works flawlessly every single time. But if you try to create a filter that says, hey, escalate this email if it sounds urgent, it usually fails miserably. I mean, why is that? It all comes down to stability. Imagine drawing a bridge. A bridge works because it's engineered for a very specific, predictable load. Automation is exactly the same way. It's built to carry a recognizable, stable pattern. The very moment you introduce ambiguity, like trying to define what an urgent tone sounds like in an email written by 10 different people, you are adding unpredictable weight outside the system's design. When that happens, the system becomes brittle and, well, the bridge collapses. And this perfectly highlights the dividing line between machines and us. Automated logic is absolutely perfect for repetition, speed, and consistency. It thrives on clear structure. Human judgment, on the other side, is built for context, nuance, and all those weird exceptions. The best, most reliable systems in the world don't try to use machines to replace human judgment. No way. Instead, they set clear boundaries to divide the labor, letting the machine do all the predictable sorting so humans can handle the messy reality. Here's a great example of that division of labor. Think of automation as a smart hallway rather than a worker. Let's say someone submits an equipment request. The system checks if the form is complete. If it is, boom, it routes it to the correct team. If it's missing details, it automatically bounces back an email asking for them. And if it's a really weird, unusual request, it flags it for human to look at. The automation isn't actually fulfilling the request inside the room, it's acting more like an air traffic controller. It reduces friction by simply getting the right request to the right door. Even tiny automations can be incredibly powerful air traffic controllers. Take something as simple as a calendar reminder. What it's actually doing is turning a future event into a present signal. Before the reminder existed, you had to burn your own mental energy remembering, oh yeah, I have a meeting at 2 p.m. The reminder completely changes your behavior. It removes the cost of waiting and worrying, forcing your attention to appear exactly when it's needed, and not a single second before. So the absolutely crucial point to take away from all this is that automation is fundamentally about protecting human attention. Every time you have to make the exact same basic decision over and over again, like where to file a specific invoice or who to forward a support ticket to, it costs you memory, it costs you attention, and it costs you energy. Automation simply takes a decision you've already made once and reuses it. It saves your limited, precious brain power for the things that actually require human thought. Once you grasp this, honestly, everything changes. You shift from being a passive user of convenience to adopting what our source calls the builder mindset. You stop looking at your messy, frustrating daily processes as just the way things are, and you start reading them as systems. You become genuinely empowered to diagnose the friction in your own life and design a completely new way around it. Okay, so let's talk about how you can actually apply this today. To think like a builder, start asking yourself these 4 scaffolding questions whenever you hit a repetitive chore. Number 1, what is the trigger? Number 2, what rule gives that trigger meaning? Number 3, what response should follow? And number 4, where does the work go next? If you can answer these clearly, you can pretty much reverse engineer and fix almost any broken process you deal with on a daily basis. So I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Look around your workspace, your inbox, or even your daily routines. What pattern is your system already repeating? There is hidden logic all around you, just waiting to be built into a smooth, frictionless path. You just have to spot the pattern. Thanks so much for joining me today on this explainer, and hey, happy building.